Tonight, Alton police describe a horrific murder scene that involved the decapitation of a pregnant woman due to give birth next month.
It is a savage killing that ended with charges today against the man police call a monster.
She was savagely killed.
The Alton police chief was visibly angry as he described what happened to 22-year-old Lisa Dodd, a pregnant woman found violently murdered in Alton last week.
Decapitated by a freaking savage monster.
That monster, Chief Marcos Polito says, is 22-year-old DeAndre Holloway of Litchfield. Holloway is now charged.
Her unborn child was also killed as a result of this.
The chief says Holloway and Dodd had an on and off relationship. He now faces charges for Dodd's death and dismemberment, as well as the death of her baby that was due next month.
This daughter, this mother-to-be, and her family were in the planning stages of a baby shower that was supposed to be at the end of June.
Now they're planning a funeral.
But what happened to 22-year-old Lisa Dodd, who had just moved to this place in Alton, is beyond irreprehensible. It's abominable. It is completely terrible what happened to her.
Police say they caught Holloway in Gillespie, Illinois, where he was arrested for stealing a bicycle.
Remember 55-year-old America Thayer. She was brutally murdered in Shakopee yesterday.
Today we're learning more about Thayer, the suspect in her death, and what friends have described as a troubling relationship between the two.
And Fox 9's Mary McGuire joining us with more on this story. Mary?
Well, there's some really gruesome video of this crime circulating on social media, which Fox 9 is choosing not to show. Friends and co-workers who came to the vigil tonight say they want America to be remembered as the sweet and kind person that she was, not for the tragic way that she died.
God will never forgotten.
Holding a sign and balloons, Faith Howie and her family came to the intersection of 4th Avenue and Spencer Street to honor the life of their neighbor, America Thayer.
I'm not going to see that beautiful smile again that I've seen every day.
They weren't alone. Former co-workers and friends stopped by the memorial, leaving flowers to remember a woman they call an angel on earth.
I'm still kind of in shock.
It's just really hard and very traumatizing.
Just one day earlier, Shakopee police were called to that intersection. A search warrant reveals when they arrived, they found Thayer's decapitated body lying on the ground next to a car. Authorities say they have a suspect in custody, who multiple people tell Fox 9 was in a long-term relationship with Thayer, where domestic abuse was a consistent problem. About a month ago, Howie says Thayer came to her apartment looking for help.
She goes, "Can I come sleep here tonight?" She goes, "I'm afraid he's going to get up and start in again."
Court records reveal the suspect was convicted on domestic assault charges in 2017 and was facing arson charges for allegedly trying to burn his apartment down. On the most recent charges, he was released on $50,000 bond this spring. Those close to Thayer say they don't want people to remember the way she died, but rather the way she lived.
We just needed a time for everyone to heal and come together and just remember for who she was and not for what happened.
Now, on Wednesday afternoon, the suspect was scheduled to be in court, but he didn't show up. Formal charges are expected to be filed in this case tomorrow afternoon. But when I was out there today, there were a lot of people who knew America, but there was also a lot of people from the community in Shakopee who just wanted to come by and leave a flower and, give their condolences. So just a beloved woman in the...
Disturbing story out of Oklahoma tonight where a man was shot after allegedly entering his former workplace and brutally killing one employee before turning on another one. Greta Cruz in our satellite center with what happened in the weeks leading up to this attack. Greta.
Allison, this was horrific. A woman was actually beheaded. Police say the 30-year-old suspect had been fired from a food processing plant, and workers said he had recently tried to convert them to Islam.
Shut the door.
Good morning, 911. Where's your emergency?
Bond Foods, Moore, Oklahoma, 216 Northeast 12th Street.
What's going on there?
We have someone attacking someone in the building.
Panic and horror at a food processing plant in Moore, Oklahoma. Police say a man had just been fired, the reason unclear. When he drove around to the main entrance yesterday, went in and beheaded a woman with a knife, then stabbed a second worker.
Can you hear this in the background?
Is that him who's back?
Yeah, it sounds like he's running around out here.
Okay.
And that's a gunshot.
Police identified the suspect as 30-year-old Alton Nolan. This mugshot from a 2010 arrest. The attack finally ended when an off-duty sheriff's deputy, the company's chief operating officer, shot and injured him.
This off-duty deputy definitely saved Tracy's life. This was not going to stop if he didn't stop it.
The woman killed was identified as 54-year-old Colleen Hufford. The other woman, 43-year-old Tracy Johnson, and the suspect are both hospitalized in stable condition. Police say workers said Nolan had been trying to convert co-workers to Islam, but
it did appear random. He wasn't targeting anyone, wasn't going specifically after them. It appears they were just in his way as he came in.
Now, more police have asked
of a Lawrence teenager charged with beheading a classmate say they heard his confession.
Today in court, the friends testified that Matthew Borges originally planned to rob Lee Valoria Paulino, then admitted to killing him. WBZ's Louisa Moeller has the story.
At approximately 5:40 p.m.
Prosecutors say this surveillance video shows Matthew Borges luring 16-year-old Lee Manuel Valoria Paulino away from his Lawrence home back in 2016 so that 4 other teens could walk in and steal his stuff. Today, 2 of those young men took the stand to tell a jury they concocted the plan with Borges, but learned after the robbery that Borges murdered and decapitated the Lawrence High School student.
He told me that he killed Lee and cut off his head.
But Borges' defense attorney argued that both witnesses repeatedly lied to police and lacked detail.
You told us that Matthew told you that he killed Lee.
Yes.
But you don't know when he told you that.
I don't know exactly when, but yeah.
You don't know where he told you that.
The jury also heard Borges' voice in a recorded police interview conducted a few days before Paulino's dismembered body was discovered.
We left to the river to smoke. After that, it was like 6:30. We were still smoking, and I left around 6:45 to 7.
Paulino was never seen alive after that. A police detective told the defendant his story seems odd.
You yourself said the other day, this story really doesn't sound too good.
Jurors will continue to hear Borges' interview with police tomorrow. Then on Friday, they'll take a tour of the Lawrence crime scene. In Salem, Louisa Moeller, WBZ.
Tell a gruesome story. A figure emerging from the woods covered in blood. Refusing to get off the property, neighbors called the police on this woman, Rowena Mills. But once on scene, deputies with the Mercer County Sheriff's Department realized something was not right. Deputies say Mills was acting strange, lying about her name and why she was covered in blood. She was arrested after she became combative, reportedly kicking and kneeing the deputies at the Sheriff's Department. This was not the end of the situation with Mills. Just hours later, deputies received a call about a possible murder just a mile away from where Mills was found. Inside the home, a body, dismembered, and a glove that matched the same one Mills was wearing when deputies found her. After further investigation, a body part was found in the woods where Mills made her first appearance. Mills is now charged with second-degree murder.
She's being held in relation with a homicide in Lerona on April 1st. The victim in that matter was decapitated.
A competency hearing was held after her defense attorney questioned her mental state.
There's the nature of the crime itself, of course, but apparently she was not very responsive with the initial investigating officers. She just didn't seem to be all there.
Around a New Jersey home that police say was the scene of a grisly murder-suicide. Authorities say a woman decapitated her 2-year-old son and put the boy's head in her freezer.
Little boy was handsome. So, I mean, this is a shame. It's a tragedy.
Officials say Siobhan Thomas killed her son and called 911 just after midnight Tuesday. Initially, the 33-year-old accused her boyfriend of stabbing the boy. Then she repeatedly said, "I did it." Minutes after she hung up on dispatchers, police said Thomas fatally stabbed herself.
It was terrible because you was on pins and needles, so you didn't know what was going to take place and what happened. You didn't know nothing until 7 o'clock when they brought her out in the store.
Neighbors said Thomas and her boyfriend were sitting in front of the house earlier in the night, but police said the boyfriend left before the murder-suicide.
It's bad. Because had we hadn't known something, I'm quite sure all the neighbors on this block would have talked to her. But, you know, people hold stuff in. You don't know what's going on. You know, times is bad. We in perilous times. Times is bad.
Thomas lost custody of her son in November 2010 after allegedly leaving the boy unattended in a car. At the time, authorities said she admitted to police that she had smoked marijuana laced with PCP and blacked out in a nearby park. Thomas regained custody of the boy in April. Matt Friedman, Associated Press.
They say they've now identified the man behind an absolutely horrifying crime in Clifton Heights this morning. 32-year-old Peter Scuria is facing murder and other charges after police say he killed his ex-girlfriend, then dismembered her body as police were arriving. Action News reporter Taronda Thomas live near the scene of that gruesome crime with more on what we're learning this afternoon. Taronda.
Well, Brian, we have to warn you, the details of this case are very disturbing. Now, this is the window where an officer saw the unthinkable. Police have never been called to this apartment address before, and when they were called this morning, it was a more gruesome scene than even a seasoned police chief could have imagined.
This is absolutely horrible.
Unlike anything Chief Timothy Rockenbach has ever seen or even heard of in his 3 decades of policing.
How actually incredibly insane this is.
Haunted by what one of his officers saw inside this apartment.
He saw a male and he was dismembering the body of a female.
Prompting the officer to make a frantic call for backup. The officer and his partner went to the apartment in the 400 block of South Springfield Road just before 5 a.m. after a neighbor called 911. They say they heard a fight and then silence. After a knock at the front door went unanswered, an officer walked around to a bedroom window. Police say 32-year-old Nicholas Scuria was inside, dismembering the body of his ex-girlfriend who lived in the apartment with him.
The weapons that he used, one was described as a machete.
Officers say Scuria was using it to cut the victim's leg. Police saw the woman's decapitated body with rolled up plastic nearby.
I believe his intent was obviously to hide the crime.
And that's exactly what police say Scuria admitted to doing, but not getting away with, thanks to the neighbor who made the call.
Oh my goodness, that's really bad. And I'm really sad about that.
Police say Scuria admitted to knocking the victim unconscious by repeatedly hitting her in the head. The officers who broke down the door after seeing the unthinkable now getting help themselves.
Got some crisis intervention with him and his partner.
Well, in addition to charges of first-degree murder and third-degree murder, Scuria also faces charges of abuse of a corpse. Now, he was arraigned this morning. He is in prison. The name of the victim is not being released.
Long Island still reeling from a horrifying crime. Police say a man apparently snapped, beheaded his own mother, then threw himself in front of a speeding train. Fox 5's Tua Chang has the latest on that investigation in Farmingdale.
Today, workers cleaned the blood off the steps leading to the lobby of 130 Secretog in Farmingdale. Nassau County Police say last night, 66-year-old Patricia Ward was beheaded in her second-floor apartment, then her body and head dragged down the steps. A longtime professor of English at Farmingdale College, detectives say Ms. Ward was killed by her son, 35-year-old Derek Ward. Police say last night he placed her headless body perpendicular to the curb. Her head was found across the street. It was a crime so gruesome, some who saw it thought it was a Halloween hoax. Dale Silverman had just left a nearby parking lot heading home last night when she saw Ms. Ward's headless body and severed head.
And I assumed it was a stupid Halloween prank and the cops were going to be furious that somebody would do this. That's what I put in my head.
And now that you know it wasn't a prank? Police say the victim's son had a 10-year history of mental illness and a criminal record for drug possession and weapons. In 2006, he was convicted of possessing 100 Valium pills and a pistol. Police say her killing was brutal, even beyond the beheading.
There was multiple signs of trauma, multiple stab wounds, broken ribs.
It's believed after Derek Ward cut off his mother's head and left her body on the street, he went over to the tracks of the Long Island Railroad